Lots of NBA to get into today and some college basketball. Obviously, March Madness is going on right now, and this weekend is Easter Sunday. So we will talk about a little teaser to Kevin's Ballin' and Fallin'. We will talk about a team that too is coming back from the dead. But that's a whole connection.
What a segue. I love it. What
I
a
thought about that
segue.
when we were doing the intro, and I was like, "Oh, that's so messed up," but I'm definitely saying
No,
it.
you got to do it. Listen, it directly ties to something we said last episode too. So we'll
Good.
have some fun with ourselves and a
Yeah.
little bit later on.
How are you enjoying March Madness? This year might be the first year that I have gone the longest with a perfect bracket.
Uh-huh.
I made it to, I think it was the first night. If I remember correct, it was Kentucky losing, I think. But I made it to like 10:30 PM on the first night with a perfect bracket, and I was really hyped about that. Now that same bracket had North Carolina winning, so it is no longer anywhere close to a perfect bracket. So that's good to know.
Yeah, to recap with where we're at, I mean, Sweet 16 games, there's another round tonight. Last night, we're recording this on a Friday. So 4 of the Elite 8 teams are already decided. That's Illinois, Alabama, who, like you mentioned, upset UNC. That's one of the first or the first 1 seed to go down. UConn rolled. They're up. They won by 30. Clemson upset Arizona. That's 77-72. That's one of the bigger ones. Arizona was a 2. I picked UConn to win. They won last year. Like, look, it's UConn. They know how to win come tournament time. I'll always have faith in them. This would be, I think, like the 4th or 5th title they've won in our lifetimes.
There is a bracket in my league right now that is 97.6% correct.
Wow. That's impressive because there
Yeah.
have been some there's some variance this year. It's been super chalky at points, and I think the final maybe super chalky. Like I picked UConn Purdue. I
Mhm.
feel like and UConn, this is the first time in a while I feel like there was a pretty large national consensus that was like, no, it's UConn and the rest of the field right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm definitely with you in that I guess I haven't. Maybe it's been a combo of watching NBA. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe even with MLB being back today, but I feel like I've watched less college than I have, and that's really saying something because I don't watch a ton to begin with. I'm strictly a pro guy, but I ask you, does it feel like that the star power of college basketball is gone recently? Like I know a lot of guys are going overseas and going to the G League and such, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like we've had that big breakout college guy. I mean, the dialogue this year has been that all the star power is on the women's side. And honestly, it's kind of hard to argue the way Caitlin Clark and Juju Watkins and all the LSU girls like down the line, they have way more watchability, if you will, right now, and it feels like the guys do.
Yeah, and you got was it Caitlin Clark telling people to S the F up on TV the other day? Like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Why did you censor S there?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I was like, wait.
I don't know. I was thinking censor, so I just censored all of it. But
No,
yeah,
you
you're
are going
right.
extra clean today. That was dumb soap levels of clean. No,
Uh,
but it does. It feels like there's way more intensity on the
yeah.
women's side. Like I don't know. I don't have a ton of interest in the field this year.
No,
And
I got into the Kentucky game with Oakland because of that the whole story behind that, and Jack hitting, what was it, 10 threes, but in his, even in the season career, he's taken more threes than he's taken twos or made
he's
more
taking like
threes.
8 shots that aren't 3-pointers this year. Like
And then
what a
his
spread.
comments, and I loved his comments being like, "Look, man, like I'm not going to the NBA. I'm just trying to make some waves in the tournament." Like, of course. And yeah, that's the cool stuff that I think I can get behind in the March Madness of it all.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that's the fun part of it,
Yep.
obviously, with it being a one and done tournament
situation.
is that those things can happen. Is more, with the NBA in a 7-game series, more often than not, the better team is going to win. That
That
may not
Colorado
happen in
Florida
March
game too,
Madness.
man. Not to bring it local for me, that Florida Colorado game though, that was tense in the last seconds there, man. Woo.
Yeah, you mentioned that was a good game. I don't want to downplay that. You mentioned Kentucky, and
Yeah.
obviously this is a brutal loss for John Calipari. It's been a run of brutal tournament exits, frankly, since about 2017. Cal does have a title with Anthony Davis, of course, back in 2012, but
Mhm.
you look at everybody that's come out of Kentucky, all the pros he's churned out. Like, there's no question he's had an incredible pedigree of these getting these top guys, but I guess, do you think the model has changed a little bit with college where it's not a lot of one and done guys now, where you kind of have to build around those career 3 and 4 juniors and seniors, who are the more college players? Or is this just a situation where it's like, oh, hey, maybe Cal has run its course here. Like, maybe it's
Yeah.
just time to move on.
Well,
This is a
and
premier program in Kentucky. It's not like they're not going to have their choice of elite coaches.
and I did see that they confirmed that Cal is going to come back for a 16th season with Kentucky. But, I wonder, it's hard to say because you look at the teams that are doing well, and maybe it's a lack of knowledge from our end on the NBA talent on the teams, but like you were saying earlier, it just feels like there's not a huge name. Like there will be names, but it's not like um Embiid or like you were saying Anthony Davis, where it's like these just guaranteed, it guys that are shining through. It kind of does feel like there's these teams that are having some upsets, and like NC State for one. I know my wife's family from there. They live right by the stadium. They go to all the games, basketball and football. They got Texas Tech, and then they go up against Oakland, who was technically a lower ranked seed, but had all the momentum coming from Kentucky, and now they're up against Marquette. I think that game's actually tonight. So
It is, yeah.
you'll know how that goes. Marquette, if they get Marquette, like then that's a huge.
That's a big upset.
That's a
If they
big
beat
one.
Marquette, they're in business. Marquette, I
That's a
think, is
big
one
one.
of the better teams left. The other 3 games tonight, that'll of course be decided by the time you hear this episode.
Yep.
Purdue, Gonzaga, Houston and Duke, Tennessee and Creighton, all which should be pretty entertaining games overall. With your star power, though, even on the coaching front, I look at everybody, that all the high profile coaches that have gone out here the last few years. You've
Yeah.
got Coach K at Duke, obviously the biggest one, but you've got a Roy Williams retiring. You've got a Jay Wright retiring. Like, those guys all won national championships. Like, Calipari probably is the biggest name left. Like, it's him and Tom Izzo are the 2 main guys that I'm looking at. Like, maybe Bill Self there too. But for the most part, like, you're right. It does feel like that juice is missing a little bit.
Well, and even if you want to go into different sport, but Nick Saban also, stepping away, a huge legendary coach just stepping away. But I wonder if it's just different now. Maybe it's the younger generation thing or I don't know. I don't know. But definitely seems like a changing of the guards, if you will, for lack of a, I guess, better analogy.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch because, for me, I would think NIL, especially with basketball, would kind of boost the star power. Like, that kind of takes a lot of the incentive to go overseas away. Now you get that element of being the man in college
Sure.
and still potentially now being able to get a paycheck for it. So, definitely worth watching, though, whether this is a 1-year trend or not. But like I said, it just certainly, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the tournament this year has had just the juice that it's had kind of the last few years. I also, again, full disclosure, I think UConn's going to roll. Like, I think they're the best team. We'll see if I put the hex on them, but I do feel pretty good about that. Welcome, everybody, to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rayfuse. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Justin Kuzart.
Bro, Hoops Hype just changed their whole website again. They
Again?
changed their whole tweet situation here. They changed it on me. They changed it to every player's most viral tweets.
Is that what you're looking for?
No, I just want the most recent tweets from these guys.
Okay. Well, let's see. Maybe I'm going to go on mine.
It's interesting. So, Yeah, I mean,
Donovan Mitchell tweeted, "Let him know," but that's just the Cavs hashtag, so that's kind of disappointing.
I was joking. I'll just go with Marsh Madness because it's Phillies opening day and Brandon Marsh hit a home run. And we saw the home run, and I'm in a text group with like all my family, and so they were like, "Oh yeah, Marsh is doing it," and my response was Marsh Madness, baby. And the Phillies posted the home run right after and just said Marsh Madness, and I was like, I should be the social media person.
Yeah, well,
That should be my job.
in classic Phillies fashion, that game's on right now.
Yeah.
They're down 3-2 now because the bullpen is just allergic to holding leads. Like that's just been a constant problem. Wheeler was phenomenal, 6 innings scoreless.
So that's why that text group has been going off since we started the podcast. I don't know what they said because obviously we're podcasting. I didn't look, but they've been going back and forth. So I'm sure they're probably calling him a bum if I had to. Somebody's being called a bum. Here we go. Nick C really stinks. I'm done with him already.
Oh yeah. Casty's kind of in a prove it year. Like,
oh man, my family turned quick.
There's not going to be a lot of grace for Nick Castellanos this year after the way the playoffs ended.
Well, there you go.
We're a lot of them, frankly. But
we're like 7 innings in, and my family is ready to move on. So there you go.
I mean, he's 0 for 3 right now with 3 strikeouts. So I mean, it's not really helping the case there. But hey, if you want to help our case, you could leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, anywhere you find podcasts, you can find us.
And you can find us on YouTube. We do a video version of the podcast. Obviously, a lot of it is just us having a conversation, but at the end, we do immaculate grids or more visual things that you can watch along with. Just search Drive and Dish NBA podcast there, and you can subscribe and be subscriber number 69. Because come on, that's a good number. So.
I mean, seriously, like, do we even need to sell it anymore? Like, no. I feel like y'all should be racing to do that now. And now a word from our sponsors.
So, very interesting situation in the world of sports. Kind of 2 situations in the world of sports. And then if you want to drill down to NBA 1's situation. Jontay Porter, who is the younger brother of Michael Porter Jr., is currently under investigation for suspicion of irregular betting activity on his player props in 2 games this season. Details have slowly been coming out as to what's going on and what's being looked at. From what I was able to see, it's from DraftKings Sportsbook. They saw suspicious bets, one on January 26th and the other on March 20th, where Porter actually left the court due to a minor injury or illness. And in both cases, his prop bets on 3-point shots, points, and assists were all under. So DraftKings is claiming that the money wagered and won on the under for Porter's 3-point shots made for January 6th was the most they lost on any prop bet for the NBA that day. Which can obviously open it up to a way larger conversation. But if there were a betting thing that players could control, it would be their own player props. So in this situation, that's why we're here. And yeah, if this comes out that that's what's going on, the NBA has to be so strict and so fast with this to discourage any other players from doing it. Now, I don't think we're ever going to have a situation, at least in the NBA, where it's like the top guys are doing it because they're making so much money already. Now, we could go down the gambling addiction side of things. But to me, the financial gain of betting a player prop bet or making that kind of money on your own player prop bet would be more for those guys that are bench players, come off the bench players who maybe don't make as much, who could cash in a ton of cash off of betting the under of 3.5 assists in a game.
Yeah. And it's all a mess. And I think this is the culmination, and I'm with you. If he gets found out that he was really gambling and he was checking out of games to manipulate his prop line, I borderline say you got to ban him for life. Like, that's how strict I think you got to come down.
So I do want to ask you, while we do this, we would be remiss to not acknowledge the Shohei stuff too,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's all. Well, it's all kind of part of it, right? Like
Mhm.
you've got the Otani thing going on in baseball with his interpreter, who apparently, depending on who you believe, either stole $4.5 million, whatever. The point is that there was a massive gambling debt incurred
Well,
there. We
eh,
don't know if there were any bets placed on baseball so far. It doesn't look like there was any evidence there were, but it's
cons-
murky.
considering now this is a local story that I'm surprised I kind of got national news, like people were making jokes about it, but there was a literal Jaguars employee that
Yeah,
stole $22 million from the team, lost 20 million of it betting. So
which is
it
remarkably bad, by the way. Like that is
at no point
incredibly
I just
horrific.
it's impressively bad gambling, yes, but to me it's like, how do you not? I think he was again, I don't know if he was specifically doing it from FanDuel, but at no point does a FanDuel or a DraftKings or a Hard Rock, because I know you can only bet Hard Rock in Florida, see $20 million going in towards betting and not be like, hey, something weird is going on here, right? Like, how did it get to that point? And I know that's a whole separate thing, but I say all that to allude to it probably wouldn't surprise me if Shohei lo- 4 million was just missing, because clearly a Jaguars team can lose 20 million of it and really not notice for a while.
Yeah, it's just all a mess. And I mean, this comes on the heels even in NBA too. Like you had JB Bickerstaff, the Cavs coach, recently
Yeah.
talk about how he got threats and his family got threatened because of gambling people.
Who was it
Tyrese
that
Halliburton also came out the other day and said there are times where it's like, I feel like a piece of meat. Like it's a really weird time for the
re-
NBA because it comes to as they're integrating betting into League
yeah.
Pass. Like
Well,
this is not, we don't need to talk. Like there is a huge overlap of sponsorships with all these big companies, MGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, you name it. And it's just like this is kind of the natural end. And I feel like I want to clarify. I am not a banned gambling person. Like I am
yeah,
by no means think that like gambling should absolutely be legal. Like I'm not it being on the black market is not going to help anyone. Like I think
right.
you got to keep that
Well,
all
and
above
it and
ground to me.
we've seen how popular it is, and I guess well received it is in states. To me, it might be a bad comparison because it just isn't apples to apples. But to me, it's like having legal drinking ages. It's like having pot legal. Like there will be bad apples that either have a gambling addiction and can't help it, or do something stupid and they're on a team or something like that. Like I get it. There will be situations like that. But you have the same thing with people that drink and drive. You have the same people that will do something stupid in that aspect. Like you can't control everybody. So I think it's hard to take the few instances. I know there will be more. I'm not saying there won't be. It's hard to take those instances and say we just need to get rid of it altogether and it just needs to go away, because it's not. We've seen it's a cash cow at this point. But you alluded to it. A lot of players are making comments. I think Rudy Gobert even alluded to the refs
He got
knowing.
fined. He got
Yeah.
fined for doing the
Oh yeah.
cash gesture.
Of
Like,
course. But you're telling me, I mean, again, I guess I don't know how much. I should look it up. I should have known this to be starting with, but you're telling me a ref that could make an extra 10K by making sure one player doesn't call, or me as a player, and just again, I'm not alluding that he did this at all. But me as a player can pull what Draymond Green did and get ejected in the first 4 minutes a game and take all my unders in something and know for a fact I'm going to make more than whatever the fine will be to be kicked out of that game.
yeah, it's just all gotten murky. Like
Yeah.
that's what it all comes
Yeah.
down to. Is it's like
Yeah.
I again, I'm not trying to ban gambling, but I think the NBA has really gotten in bed with this, and American
Everybody.
sports have really
Dude.
gotten in bed with this. And it's funny because it's at a time where Europe kind of went the other direction
Yeah.
because when you get fully in with it, it does kind of get out of line. Like, look, there's a lot of subjectivity in the NBA, like between foul calls,
Yeah.
between you know,
Baseball too. I mean, that's a whole nother one with strike zones
yeah,
and not you don't have the robot, umps and I know that's gonna be a whole nother thing, but
it's a
yeah,
problem. Like there's heavy ethics concerns if guys are betting on the NBA. And if Jontay Porter was betting on the NBA like this, then yeah, I do think you got to make an
for
example of him because you got to nip this in the bud. But it feels like it's coming from a bad place when the NBA is doing the same exact thing and making a ton of money off it.
and I get the idea of like this situation, right? If Jontay Porter was doing this and he took the unders and he got himself taken out of the game, like he's not technically affecting the outcome of the game, but in being selfish, trying to get his things, it could have affected.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't matter. Like it infects the integrity of the game, and that matters a lot
Yeah,
too.
but I would say for whatever reason in this situation, I get it. I don't like it. But if his brother Michael Porter Jr. comes out and says, "Yeah, I put 10K on us beating the Lakers tonight," I'm like okay with that because like you want
I'm
to win
not.
anyway.
No, I'm not. I get it, and in that case, it's like a bet. It's like the ultimate bet on yourself,
Right,
right?
right. Like I'm okay with that part
I
of it.
don't know. That
It
reaches
does
weird
open it.
levels of collusion,
Yeah,
though. Like that's the thing.
I get
I'm
it.
okay with NBA guys betting on other sports potentially. If you want to bet on football, if you want to bet on
Imagine though.
baseball, hockey, whatever. But I don't want NBA players betting on NBA games. Like it gets
Yeah,
real.
but
It just to
imagine
me it
like
goes bad fast.
Imagine like the locker room, right? It's Lakers. They're in the play-in tournament and they're up against the Warriors and all the guys are sitting in the locker room and they're trying to get in the mood and they're trying to go in and LeBron James just walks in. He looks at everybody. He's like, "Guys, I just put 5 mil on our money line. We're winning tonight." And everyone's like,
Yeah,
"What?"
but that's insane. Like I mean, that's basically what the in-season tournament is, but at
Yeah.
least that's ethical. Like you can motivate yourself,
Yeah,
like do that in your contract incentives. Like I don't know.
I get it.
It gets way too much of a gray area for me. And
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and I think for those players, again, they're already held to a higher standard. So this will just be part of being held to that higher standard of you can't sports bet on your sport, and that's just what it is, you know. And I think I agree with you. I think most situations, if a player's sports betting, it's not a good situation in their sport, on their games or whatever. There's a zero, like it's just not good. So I'm with that. I think you kind of have to just at least have it at that level. But now Mark Cuban walks into the locker room and is like,
no, no, I don't want anybody affiliated with the NBA betting on the NBA. And
he sold the team. Well, he hasn't sold it yet, but he's selling the team. So
fine.
maybe
When you're out, you can bet on the NBA
okay.
all you want.
So maybe that's the way that they hype up the team. Like Allen Iverson walks into the Sixers locker room and he's like, "Yo, I just put this money on you guys to win tonight. Hype it up." Maybe that's where they can do that situation.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just like I said, way too much of a gray area.
I agree.
I think it's just getting
So
a little gross.
what do you think if, and we're still at the if stage of this because he's not been found guilty. So Jontay Porter, for all cases, is innocent right now. If it comes out that this was him or someone in his party doing this specific bet and he was manipulating it, like what does the NBA do? Is it just you're out forever, you're never coming back?
I don't know if it gets forever, maybe because it is a first time thing. But and I know I said that earlier, but like it's got to be heavy. It's got to be
Yep.
like a year plus.
And of course, for Michael Porter, his older brother did come out and said he didn't know why. He's sure he wouldn't do anything to jeopardize his budding NBA career. So obviously, alluding to he's young, he just got in the system essentially. But dude, yeah, I kind of think the NFL has done it with some players where it's a year suspension. Obviously, one of the former wide receivers for the Jags went through that with Calvin Ridley, but you need to send a very heavy message to everyone in the NBA. If he is found guilty of this, like you got to lay the hammer down and let it know that there is zero tolerance. It's not, this can't happen. You can't, like you were saying, gray the integrity of the the NBA, the games, people already joke that there's scripts anyway. So like this would make it a million times worse. I think you do a year, 2, 3, I don't know. But you lay the hammer down if it is.
Yeah, like you said, I just really don't think you can mess around here. I
No.
think you have to. I don't want to say make an example,
But
but
you
you
do.
got to set a precedent.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not cool.
I
Can't be
agree.
on the NBA.
Now, of course, there will be people that mention this, and we'll probably be one of them. So I'll be very transparent. But then you'll go and you look at, objectively a way worse situation where there's domestic violence involved, and they're kicked out for way less time than that.
I don't agree with that. Like,
Yeah.
that's my point is it's like, yeah, you can, I don't disagree that looks ridiculous on its face, but
Yeah.
I also go, hey, I'm not exactly going out here to defend
Right.
them either.
Right.
Like, I'm
Right.
absolutely right there with, I have no problem with that.
Right.
But you're right. That will get brought up.
People
But I think,
mention that so
that's a
fast.
bad faith argument. Like, that's just, there can be two wrongs. Like, they're
Right.
not.
Well, and I think, we've already talked about it. I think, the punishment for that should also be, very little leniency and forgiveness in a way. So, there it is.
Yeah. All right, who's balling, who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like to start with the good before the bad. And so for balling for me this week, I mean, really, in theory, I feel bad because if the Spurs weren't here, though technically they've won 2 in a row, it would really, I'd say, the state of Texas. Specifically, I'm giving it to the Rockets, who have won 10 in a row going into this and now are casually a game back of the play-in. After last week, I basically sat here and said that, hey, I think the play-in teams are pretty much set, or the top 10 are set. In the Eastern Conference, that remains true. In the Western Conference, hello, Houston, we have a problem.
And we joked about it probably last episode or 2 episodes ago. We said, how crazy would it be if the Warriors get kicked out of the play-in tournament by the Rockets? And we said it as like wouldn't that be wild? And we're 1 game away from it right now.
I mean, we're at 72 games in, so they both got 10 left. They're a game back.
We know what their tiebreaker is.
The Lakers could drop out too. The Lakers, though, have a 2.5 game cushion right now on the Warriors.
Do we by chance? I guess I can look it up. What the tiebreaker might be between the Rockets Warriors? Who has that right now?
I don't.
Let me look. Let me see.
Start looking that up while I continue to talk about this. But I think that's the most intriguing thing. Is obviously Houston has been surging. The other team, the co-balling to a lesser extent that I want to mention is Dallas too. I mean, Dallas, they've won 5 in a row, but they're 9-1 in their last 10. Up to 6, they're out of play-in position right now. Now they're kind of, they've only got a half game up on Phoenix right now, a game on Sacramento. So like they've got a long way to go. But Dallas' starting lineup in particular has really looked good. And they're kind of onto something. Like, more importantly, they're just defending a lot better. I think that's been the main thing here, is that starting lineup being able to defend at a high level. You start to believe in them a little bit more come playoff time when you have the high-powered players in Luka and Kyrie that you do. But it does feel like they're on to something there.
All right, I got some info from you for you.
Okay. All right.
You already gave a lot of these stats, so I'll just run through them quick. They've got 26 days to chip away at that deficit, which is no, it's less than that. This was on the 27th, so we'll go back a little bit. So they've got less than 23, 24 days to chip away at the 1 game deficit. The Rockets do not own the tiebreaker. The Warriors own the tiebreaker. So the Rockets have to finish ahead of the Warriors in the standings to bump them out of the play-in.
Okay.
Rockets is the only team ranked in the top 5 in both offensive and defensive rating this month. So they're cooking, like you said. It's no surprise. But that tiebreaker does make it so it's technically 2 games that they're behind right now because they got to be ahead of them. So I think they can do it, though. What's the strength of schedule looking like? You start getting into a lot of that,
That's what I'm looking at now. And Jalen Green in particular, I really want to highlight. He's been excellent scoring-wise for them these past few, and during this streak, it's been a lot more efficient. And that's with Şengün going down as well. Like, I think that's worth mentioning. Like, they've lost arguably their best player on that roster, and they've been able to do this. So Houston, the rest of the way, they have Utah, Dallas, Minnesota, Golden State on the 4th. So there we go. That's a huge game upcoming here. They've got Miami, they've got Dallas again, they've got Orlando, they've got Utah, they've got Portland, and they end with the Clippers.
Oof.
The Warriors have Charlotte, San Antonio, Dallas. Again, that game on Houston on the 4th that I mentioned. Then they've got Dallas again, Utah, the Lakers, Portland, New Orleans, and Utah. So I would say, looking at both, heavy advantage Golden State in that regard. Like Charlotte and San Antonio, both on the road, but like those have got to be wins if you're the Warriors.
And that last game against the Clippers for the Rockets is going to be tough. I mean, right now, them and the Pelicans are essentially tied. So they would in a way they'd be playing for 4th and 5th, which I guess might not necessarily matter too much, but you know, depending on what the Mavericks do to push it a little bit closer, could really make some things tough there.
They have a tough stretch. Houston does between the 31st and the 7th, where it's that you've got Dallas twice, who, as we mentioned, playing a lot better. You've got Minnesota, and then that game with Golden State and with Miami, and then even on the 9th, you've got Orlando right after that. Like you've got 2 games against Utah that I feel like you have to win. You've got a game against Portland that you have to win, and then you got the Clippers. Like the Warriors just have a lot more gimmies, it feels like, during that stretch. But again, this is a 1-game gap right now, like really 2, like you mentioned with the tiebreakers. Some are citing this on Twitter. I don't want to particularly point out anything, but some are saying that the Rockets, the Mavericks, and the Dallas Stars are undefeated since Pornhub was banned in Texas, which apparently is a thing, which I have a lot of feelings about.
So I'm at the office and I almost want to Google that story, but I'm a little worried that I'll get put on a list of HR meeting people.
Yeah, maybe not at work.
I literally
keep that on the Drive and Dish burner account unless you got incognito or something.
I quite literally typed most of what I was going to search and then went, I'm in the office. I probably shouldn't, but good for them. You know, the pent up anger, angst, whatever you want to call it.
I know. No, listen, some are saying, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Some are correlating.
Pointing out.
Not ever us, but some are correlating.
Well, and the baseball season's about to start. So the Texas teams are doing good.
The Rangers walked off last night and they won the World Series last year, but they're 1-0 too, I guess, if they want to get in. So.
Oh my Lord. All right. Well, there you go. So my ballin', because I just realized I haven't given that yet, is actually, you're going to have to help me out here, law school. That
sounds like you were about to shove me into a locker.
Is shout out to Glenn Taylor, chairman of Taylor Sports Group, Inc., laying down the terms of purchase agreement on Alex Rodriguez and company, because they did not follow the 90-day period to exercise their notice of issue or whatever it is called. That's where you need to help me. It expired on March 27th. So now, he's saying, maybe we can come to an agreement later, but it is expired. Under certain circumstances, it's worth mentioning that the buyer could have been entitled to a limit extension. Those circumstances did not occur. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that the Timberwolves are number 2 in the Western Conference. I think that might have something to do with it. But either way, here we are.
Yeah, it's more of, again, essentially they just didn't meet the contractual obligation of when this all had to go through. But it's kind of one of these things where it's like, it's weird because, like we said, they flirted with this offer. Glenn Taylor has. It feels like it's been full steam ahead. Like Alex Rodriguez and Lore are both, what's his name? I don't know why I'm blanking on the other, Mark Lore. Mark Lore have been gung-ho on this. But Clint Taylor, I don't know, and maybe it is. Like you said, the Timberwolves are a great story this year. Like, they've got a pretty real title chance, it feels like.
Seller's remorse. He was starting to be like, oh, man, I don't...
Yeah, like, maybe a little bit. Like, I don't want to accuse him of anything, but, yeah, they'll continue... basically, like, they said they're going to continue conversations, but he more or less said that they're just not for sale anymore. And that's what, you mentioned seller's remorse. Like, that's what Alex Rodriguez said in the statement, where he's just like, hey, we're ready to go. We did everything we needed to.
What the
why are you
heck?
exactly pulling this out now? And they feel like they were, met the criteria for the extension that would have
Um,
allowed this to go through. But I don't know. Either way, I mean, I guess this doesn't change anything. Like they're not exactly just like drifting out here on the open market right
no.
now. Yeah, I think Mark Lore and A-Rod have a right to be pissed, but if you're Glenn Taylor, like maybe it is seller's remorse a little bit. I don't know. There's going to be some
Imagine
litigation about this. That's what I do know, and
yeah.
that's about what I
Well,
got
and
at this point.
imagine selling the majority stake of the team or whatever you're doing to and then they go win the whole thing. Like that, like a month or two after you sell the damn team, they go win the whole NBA. Like I would be so pissed. Like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, it's just it's a funny situation.
yeah.
Um, but it is ironic when they are very good right now. And I mean, he owns the Minnesota Lynx too, the WNBA team, and then they've
Mhm.
been pretty good historically. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. We shall see. All right,
So
falling for me this week is LaMelo Ball, who's officially ruled out for the rest of the season. He's been out since January, end of January on the 26th with that ankle injury. Um, Again, maybe not really a surprise here. The Hornets not exactly playing for anything right now. They've been eliminated. They're 18-14 on the season. The only ones ahead of them draft order wise, Washington, Detroit, and San Antonio. Portland actually jumped them, and San Antonio honestly is only a game behind Charlotte. So potentially bad news for them. Good news for Charlotte is if you're going down, the tank race, you could be a top 3 pick here sooner than later. But yeah, I mean, this is tough news. Like LaMelo Ball has dealt with a number of injuries here. This ankle one was pretty serious. It's coming off a ending injury last year. And so, I mean, this is a guy who obviously they build as the face of their franchise. Him and,
mhm.
and then, Brandon Miller's development has probably been the biggest positive for them this year. But yeah, it's been another pretty bad season for the Hornets. You want to, hopefully going to add another high lottery pick here into the mix, but without LaMelo being available to go all the time, it does kind of make the future look a bit murkier here.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't I'm sure we wouldn't be the first people to say it, but it does seem like injury risk is now following kind of both the Ball brothers a little bit,
Yeah.
which is a super bummer. You don't want that, especially for the Hornets in this scenario because we're talking about LaMelo. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
not
mean,
good.
Melo's had 4 seasons at this point. Granted, won the COVID season, but
Changes things.
the
Yeah,
most he's ever played is 75 games. He played 75 games in 2021, 2022. Last year he played 36. This year he played 22. Like it's just
tough.
it stinks because they're super talented. And obviously you
Yeah,
mentioned Lonzo too. Obviously radically different injuries here, but
right.
yeah, we know what they can be when they're on the court. And it is. I think it's a pretty fair distinction to wonder about LaMelo Ball's long-term durability. Again, you hope this heals and gets better and that he can be the dynamic player that he's shown the flashes of being. But yeah, that's long term in Charlotte. Like they need him to be that if they're going to start competing here. And so that this is a bit of a bummer in the meantime.
A quick update because we did reference the family group chat for the Phillies game.
Uh-huh.
My uncle has officially said there's always next year.
Oh, okay. The bullpen's getting shelled that bad, huh?
Yep,
Oh, it's
yep,
9-2. Oh my
yeah.
God, dude. What happened? Good Lord. It was like 3-2 last time I looked at it. Well, that
Yeah.
escalated
So
quickly.
yeah, they're over it already. So there you go. My fallen is probably that, but also gonna go to Kevin Herter of the Sacramento Kings. He is obviously they need him for what they are trying to do in this run to stay out of the play-in tournament. But he is undergoing season-ending left shoulder surgery to repair a torn labrum. I don't know if you saw the video. It's a little weird. Like it doesn't look like it's any contact. He's just going up for a layup, and then all of a sudden he's grabbing his arm. That there was a player behind him jumping, but it didn't look like there was contact. So it was a crazy injury, but he had missed 5 straight games since suffering a dislocated shoulder and the torn labrum, and obviously going to use the offseason to rehab in the 59 games for the Kings this season. He was averaging 10 points, almost 3 assists, 3.5 rebounds. The Kings, though, were 11-4 when Herter scored more than 15 points. That's according to ESPN Stats and Info. So, kind of a little fun fact for you there, and for those continuity people. Herder landed on the Kings from the Hawks back in 2022. So
Yeah,
hopefully he can get better.
it's a bit of a mixed bag. And obviously, first, like you said, best wishes to Kevin Herter as he gets better.
Yeah.
You know, Kevin Herter's role has kind of shrunk this season because
Mhm.
he is a liability on the defensive
Yeah.
end. And, they were already going or looking at giving Keon Ellis, the rookie, more time. And now, by default, they're going to
We'll
have
get
to
it.
give him more
Well, and I
time. No
wonder if
choice now.
that kind of shows it. Like if Herder can, that maybe that's the threshold of making up for his defensive lacks. Like if he can get that 15 points, it makes up for the lack of defense a little bit. That's that little few extra points there.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know what he can do when he gets going. He's a hot hand. Like he's one
Right.
of those shooters who just,
Believe me,
the
we know.
basket opens up when he makes one. He can really get on those sprees. But yeah, I mean, he was averaging 10 points a game, so they're definitely going to miss it. And he certainly just by being on the floor opens things up. De'Aaron Fox, as we know, is not a huge shooter. Sabonis isn't exactly going to stretch the floor either. So in that sense, he'll be missed. But it kind of feels like they were going a little more defensive oriented anyway. But yeah, as you mentioned, they're right in this kind of like 4 to not quite down to the Lakers, but like this 4 to 8 like group of teams. And as they're trying to get out of the play-in, this is a loss for them.
The other part that's worth mentioning, because I found this on NBA.com that tonight, so you will know the result of this. Denver will clinch a playoff spot with a win and Sacramento losing tonight. So teams that have currently clinched, only Boston. Denver will be the next one on that, I guess, list. There are a few teams, obviously, that have been eliminated already, 4 for each conference, but I don't think we need to go down that road. A pretty obvious one. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
And the
If I
Kings
had
need to win bad.
If I had another fallen, by the way, it would have been Toronto. Like, I do want to make a dishonorable man. Like, Toronto's lost 12 in a row.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be like a dishonorable mention. They're quietly trying to, get back in this tank race here too.
So what you're saying is for wins going forward for the rest of the season, take the under on Toronto.
I mean, look, they got again in the race. I'm saying jump here, and that they got less wins. They've jumped Memphis in the tank charts. So again, it may be a little tough to catch Portland and Charlotte and some of these other teams, but either way, definitely not going in the right direction. But yeah, the only play-in team right now that has not been officially eliminated in the East is Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a casual 6 back of Atlanta. I feel pretty good about them saying that they're not going to make it. Also, how about Atlanta with back-to-back wins over Boston? DeJounte Murray, 44 points on 44 shots, but he hit the game winner the other night, and then they had a crazy comeback. They were down double digits pretty late in the third and then came back and won that game. Just kind of wild, like a little bit of a
good for him,
plot twist there, especially without Trae Young.
Yeah, good for both of them.
Yeah, but shall we get into some Immaculate Grid?
We shall, and I'm really excited because right off the rip, I know we have an Elfrid Payton plug.
All right, well, that's good because I immediately saw Born Outside the U.S. 50 states in D.C. and groaned, but at least we got some teams here so we can have a little bit of fun with it. And again, you can watch the Immaculate Grids here on YouTube if you are not, or if you're an audio listener, I should say. Just so y'all can follow along with us, our columns from left to right. We've got the Pelicans, we've got the Lakers, and we've got our favorite Born Outside the U.S. 50 states in D.C., our rows from top to bottom. We've got the Knicks, we've got the Sixers, and we've got the Rockets. So, Justin, I already know where you're going. Top left corner, Knicks, Pelicans, our boy Elfrid Payton, who definitely works. And we just, as part of it, have to 2%, so a little higher than I expected.
I think it's probably because people are following what we do now and know when Elfrid Payton works in certain scenarios.
My other jump off the page one would have been Baron Davis.
We
got to go with Elfrid right away. Okay, I'm not going to lie. Like, looking at this is an extremely favorable board for us. I'm not even going to do the board outside the U.S. 50 states. We can just cruise through that. Hey, don't change the tab on me here, bud. That was good.
Oh, wait, hold on. What? How's that even working?
I don't know.
Okay, whatever.
Right.
I was going to learn how to spell Jahlil Okafor's name because I think he works here.
Jahlil Okafor does actually work for the Pelicans too. I think you're right.
I can't remember if he's on the Pelicans though.
No, I think he was. I think he signed a later like 10-day there. It's JAHLIL.
That's what it JAH. Should we go for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jaleel,
7%.
baby.
Damn. They kind of did him dirty with his headshot there. That was crazy. There have to be better ones that Okafor had. Yeah, I don't know because I'm trying to think for Sixers and Pelicans. Yeah, it's kind of
Drew Holiday.
Yeah, okay.
JJ Redick.
That's an easy one. Yeah, JJ went right from us there. Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, apparently I'm just not even thinking then today. All right. So I know our boy Lou Williams works for 2 of these. We don't have to use him, but he works for Sixers, Lakers, and Rockets, Lakers.
Dwight Howard's going to work somewhere in here too.
Dwight Howard's going to work for those same 2, actually. He's going to work for Rockets, Lakers, and he's going to work for Sixers, Lakers as well.
So and then Eric Gordon works here.
Eric Gordon does work there. That's probably the number 1 I thought of. I'm trying to remember if DeMarcus Cousins ever went to Houston in his like late career exodus with hitting all those teams. Because he definitely played for the Pelicans, obviously.
Oh, he was definitely on the Rockets.
Yeah, I think he was too.
DeMarcus Cousins was definitely on the Rockets. Chris Paul would work there.
Chris Paul definitely works there. I think he's the number 1 in my opinion.
I bet people know very well that Eric Gordon was on the Pelicans?
I think they know less that Eric Gordon was than Chris Paul was. So for between those 2, I'm way more inclined to go.
But I'm pretty
Eric
sure.
Gordon.
But Boogie, does he work anywhere?
It's tough because Boogie's obviously a way more iconic player, but those aren't the teams that people associate him with.
No, but does he work Rockets Lakers by chance?
Yeah, he does work Rockets Lakers.
That might be.
Yeah, he played for the Lakers, right?
Didn't he?
Or did he get hurt and never play for them? He might have got hurt and never played for them, now that I think about it. Because that's why Dwight Howard signed, remember? Dwight Howard was like in exile. And then they brought him out and he was on the title team.
So we go, what if we go Boogie for Pelicans Rockets?
Yeah.
Dwight for Rockets Lakers.
So I was going to flip it. I was going to go Dwight for Sixers Lakers because he was a role player for the Sixers. And I think Lou Williams played a bunch of years with us. Like Lou Williams was on the Rockets for like half a season before he got traded to the Clippers in the Chris Paul deal.
Okay. So Lou for Sixers Lakers.
Dwight for Sixers Lakers.
Dwight for Sixers Lakers. Dwight for Sixers Lakers. Okay, 15%.
Damn, that was way more than I expected. Shoot. Oh, no, we should have done for Sixers Lakers. Oh, we should have done Mike Muscala. Mike Muscala would have been way lower, and he definitely played for both.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
He definitely played for that. Doesn't help us now.
You know who I wanted to do? What's his name? Mr. Bowling Knees.
Oh, Andrew Bynum, but he never played for us, so I don't think it would count. Like, it's one of those things. Like, it should count, but
it wouldn't.
right.
Okay.
So we'll do Lou.
You want to go Lou for Rockets Lakers?
Yeah.
Lou Williams, 0.8. Dang.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he wasn't on the Rockets that long.
So then this is Eric. What do we want to do here? Boogie.
Yeah, Boogie. I think Boogie will be rarer than Eric Gordon.
11%. Okay. Interesting.
I have to play that later and see what Eric Gordon is.
See what Eric Gordon is, because I don't know, but all right. So Lakers Knicks is our last team connection, and then we got the Born Outside 50 States and DC. Did Jeremy Lin end up with the Lakers at any point?
Yeah, he did. I'm pretty damn sure he did.
He'll work there. He also would work Born Outside US, I think. Or was he?
Was he? No, I think
I
he's
don't
born
know.
in California. No, I think he's born in California.
California? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe not then. Maybe
No, I know he's
Asian.
Asian, but like,
Yeah.
I think no, he would work for Knicks and Lakers though.
Do you think that's going to be a higher percentage than like Carmelo?
No, I don't think it's going to be a higher percentage than Carmelo. That would be crazy.
Because Carmelo also works there.
Did Timofey Mozgov ever play for the Knicks? I think he did.
Mozgov would probably be a good one for outside the U.S.
Yeah, he would.
Actually, you know?
Yeah, because he's born in Russia. Or
Yeah.
somewhere over there.
Well,
I'm pretty sure it's Russia.
Are we confident in him being on the Knicks?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think he
Okay.
started there because I think he got postered by Blake on the Knicks. As bad as that sounds.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Point
All
7.
right.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
Um.
So do we want to go Jeremy Lin
Yeah,
here?
I think Jeremy Lin's fine,
Or
and
does
then
Jeremy Lin Rockets born outside the 50
no, he's
states?
not born outside the
Right,
U.S.
right, right.
He's born in America.
I keep thinking he's born outside. Okay, you're right. You're right. Lin. Jeremy Lin. Okay. Isn't he playing in China right now? Is that why I keep thinking that?
Probably,
I
yeah.
think he is. Oh, wait, 12%. Jeez.
All right.
right.
So born outside the U.S. for the Sixers and the
Shamit.
Rockets. Was
Or
Shamit
no.
born?
Am I thinking Shamit? No. Who am I? Dario. Dario is who I'm thinking of.
Dario Saric is for sure born outside the U.S. Ilyasova was born outside the U.S. and played for us. Marco Bellinelli was born outside the U.S. and played for us.
I bet Bellinelli's low.
I think Bellinelli's pretty low too. I think any of them are low, honestly. I'm trying to think who's here now that would be born outside the U.S.
Marco. Let's go Marco Bellinelli.
Okay, I'm fine with Marco.
1%, baby. That's
yeah,
huge.
hell yeah.
All right, so the last one, Rockets born outside the U.S. Obvious answer, Yao Ming.
Yeah, the two obvious ones are Yao Ming and Olajuwon. It's like arguably two of the best players in franchise history. Well, Olajuwon is number one, but yeah, I'm trying to let's see. I mean, on the team right now, Şengün is not born inside the U.S.
Was KJ McDaniels born outside the U.S.?
KJ McDaniels was probably not born outside the U.S. I don't know, but I don't think he was born outside the U.S.
Rockets.
Yeah, Şengün is Turkish. Yao Ming obviously is Chinese. Who did I met? I forget where Olajuwon is from, honestly.
Who else?
Was Moses Malone born inside the U.S.?
Oh, boy. I don't know.
I don't know either. I think he was, and I'm not enough to, like, bet on that. I mean, I'm trying to think of other, like, Rockets greats. Steve Francis is obviously American.
What about, like, a random, like, who was playing with Harden and Chris Paul?
That's, I'm trying to think of their role guys, too.
Yeah.
Dude, no, might have been no, I think was born outside the US that was on that team. Clint Capella. I'm pretty sure Clint Capella was born outside the US.
Oh yeah, I think Clint.
I forget where, but I don't think I'm pretty sure he was not a born in US guy.
You want to try it?
Yeah, I'm a little shakier than I've been, but if he was on the team, I'm not worried about that. All right, nice.
100% with a 55 rarity score.
All right, I want to look that up where he was born.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Switzerland. Wow.
There you go. There's only 29 connections for Pelicans.
Basketball References, Clint Capella's nickname is the Swiss Bank.
I love that.
That's wild.
I love that.
All right, so let's see the most popular answers, if you don't mind scrolling down for me there a little bit, Justin. All right, so for Knicks Pelicans, it's Josh Hart. For Lakers Knicks, it is Carmelo Anthony. For born outside the US and the Knicks, it's Kristaps Porzingis. For the Sixers, born outside, Embiid. Sixers, Lakers, Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, that's definitely.
We didn't even mention that one. Yeah.
Wow. Guy you mentioned, Drew Holiday for Sixers, Pelicans. Chris Paul for Rockets, Pelicans. Russell Westbrook for Rockets, Lakers. It's actually one we didn't mention either. And then Yao Ming, kind of as expected. Most popular Rocket born outside the U.S., 50 states. Do we want to go back to our grid? Do you mind clicking back for me? See who we got. All right. So to recap. One last time here for Knicks, Pelicans, our boy, Elfrid Payton. For Knicks and Lakers, Jeremy Lin. For Knicks, born outside the U.S., 50 states in D.C., Timofey Mozgov. For Sixers, Pelicans, Jahlil Okafor. For Sixers, Lakers, Dwight Howard. For Sixers, born outside the U.S., Marco Bellinelli. For Rockets, Pelicans, DeMarcus Cousins. For Rockets, Lakers, Lou Williams. And for Rockets, born outside the U.S., 50 states, Clint Capella.
Wow.
Not bad.
Wow.
Immaculate, as some would say.
Dude, we did 55. That might be the lowest I've seen us get. I mean, that's
Pelicans and Knicks being that low is kind of crazy. Like, you got Elfrid. Josh Hart is another obvious one because they were there right now.
Yeah.
Who else we got? Tyson Chandler. That's
Robin
right.
Lopez.
That was one of his early trades. Julius Randle in between the Lakers.
Hernandez.
Actually, yeah, there's a lot of good ones here, actually.
Yeah.
Langston
Austin Rivers.
Jimmer Fredette, obviously, super popular, like March Madness guy.
That's an interesting. JR works.
Wow, I forgot JR played for the Pelicans. Wow, Baron Davis, we did mention. I'm proud of that. Shout out to B Diddy.
B. Davis.
He's,
You remember
he's having a
that?
better time than the other Diddy right now. The other Diddy right now might have found himself in a little bit of trouble. Usually,
My
you know, I don't want
my
to opine yet. I'm not a lawyer yet, but usually when the feds raid your house, it's not good. Or
my
houses, I guess I should say.
my coworker played Kesha's TikTok the other day, and it came
Oh
on, and I
boy.
was like, "Ooh, that one line
Yeah.
probably should
What did you
go."
mean there, Kesha, when you woke up in the morning feeling like Diddy? What's
Yeah,
that
what do
mean?
you want to elaborate on that one for us? Cause what?
That line was so fire at the time too. Like that's crazy. That aged like milk.
Yeah, really did. So
Cool. Well,
rough
thank you
times.
everybody for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. Hopefully it doesn't age like milk. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. I'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And find us on YouTube, Driving Dish NBA Podcast. You can watch the video version of the podcast there. That way, you can subscribe and never miss an episode.